compete. That is the word Tim Walton says he wants to see from Ohio State's corners during spring practice. And there's one Buckeye, after only a couple practices, that is standing out amongst everybody else that is trying to be a starting corner at Ohio State in 2023.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Monday, March 13th in the year 2023, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. During this episode, we will go through a mock draft that has 4 Buckeyes getting selected in the first round, and the Buckeyes basketball season has officially come to an end. But before we get to any of that, we're looking for players that are standing out. Even after only a couple practices, it shouldn't take long for those players that have been working, that have been grinding during winter workouts to stand out amongst the rest. Specifically in the cornerback room, where Tim Walton has said he's looking for players to compete. He wants competition in that room, and he wants 2 players, maybe 3 if you want to count the nickel corner or cover safety in that position as well. But he wants players to step up who stand out amongst the rest, and those players will be starters at Ohio State. In comes Denzel Burke. 2-year starter, had a sophomore slump. It happens to the best of us. But in year 3, we're all thinking I'm expecting Burke to automatically be a starter. Not so fast, my friend. That's not how this thing is going to go. You got to earn your spot. You got to compete for your spot. There are guys coming in that are trying to get your spot. And Denzel Burke has been working. Denzel Burke has been grinding. And I think what happened last year for Denzel Burke was just a snapshot of maybe the worst football he will play as a Buckeye. Year 3 will probably be his final year at Ohio State, and I do think we can expect big things from number 10 in the fall. Denzel Burke's one of those guys. Freshman year, thrust onto the scene, Sevyn Banks is hurt. All of a sudden, there's this young guy, number 29, and he was balling, shutting down guys, breaking up passes. He was doing great things. Sophomore slump comes in year number 2. I believe he changed his number. All of a sudden, what happens now? Denzel Burke, not the same guy that he was in year 1. What's going on? Talented receivers in the Big Ten. This is expected. It's expected for a player like a Burke in year 2 as a starter in this conference to have some issues. I mean, granted, Stroud is not perfect, but Stroud is really, really good. Stroud wasn't elite every game. Stroud had issues in his second year being a starter at Ohio State. It happens. But Denzel Burke is already catching the eye of his coaches. Not just Tim Walton, but specifically Jim Knowles. And Jim Knowles had some specific things to say about Denzel Burke and from what he saw, for what he has seen from him so far this offseason. Quote, I think Denzel this offseason just stood out, man. Just his physical development, the way he competed. We were talking about, as a defensive staff, I had the defensive staff go through a draft. I'm not giving out all of their results, but I had them go through a draft. And we kind of draft our team to kind of see what our thoughts are on each player. And you can see where maybe somebody drafted him high and somebody drafted him low. But Denzel came out great in that. And I think everybody has seen the offseason that he has had. And then Tuesday, he got his hands on more balls than maybe all last spring and camp together. So he just seems to be on point, end quote. Man, I love this. This is what you want to hear. It's not just that he had a good offseason and that he has stood out. It's the fact that Jim Knowles, the head coach of the defense, has said that Burke has stood out. He's had a physical development and that he has competed. I mean, isn't that what you want from a football player? that he develops physically. May it be getting stronger, may it be getting healthier, trimming down, being a leaner player, a leaner person. May it be you bulk up, gaining 5, 8, 10, 12, 15 pounds of good weight. May it be you develop in your speed, or may it be your hand strength that develops. Whatever it is, he developed physically. But also at the same time, this young man competed. That's what you want from a guy who you claim is standing out. And then you describe the ways that he's standing out, and it's exactly what you want from somebody in Denzel Burke's position to do in year 3. He's expected to be a starter, but also he is going to earn that role as a starter based off the hard work he is putting in the offseason. There are guys out there, Davidson Igmanosin, transfer from Ole Miss, and Jim Knowles talked about him as well. There are guys out there like Jordan Hancock. So I saw somebody on the Bird app. Oh, if he's healthy, he's going to be a dog. Okay, cool. You got to prove it to me. Well, Denzel Burke's already showed us he can be a dog on the football field. Let's see it again. Let's see him do these same things once again. I want to see it. I believe we're going to see it. And I do think him progressing in this way, being a more fit, I'm probably going to be saying he's gained about 5 to 8 pounds, or 3 to 5 pounds, or maybe 7 pounds of good, healthy weight. Kyle McCord and Devin Brown are going to have to go up against this young man and practice. Marvin Harrison Jr., Julian Fleming in spring practice will have to go up against him as well. And you know what? They're going to have to deal with somebody who's ready to compete. They're going to have to deal with somebody who is trying to prove to everyone on the team, especially the coaches, especially Jim Knowles and his position coach Tim Walton, that he is worthy of starting once again. You got to prove it, young man. I don't care who you are. You got to prove it. And Denzel Burke sure looks like somebody who's going to prove that he is worthy of being a starter at corner at Ohio State. And you know that standard that has been set about Ohio State DBs? You know that standard that has been set that some people say, oh my goodness, we're never going to get there again. How about Denzel Burke raise the bar for those in the room and say, what we have been over the past couple of years is not acceptable? Because outside, I believe, the 2019 season, 2020, 2021, 2022, they may not have been the best years for Ohio State corners as far as saying they're elite of the elite in the country. Let's get back to real Buckeye football, where DBs are elite. DBs are going first round, second round, consistently. How about we get back to Ohio State putting guys in the draft? And when they say, oh, Ohio State DB, they think first round pick. They think day 2 pick, high day 2 pick. Why? Because there's a path and a track record that the school has that people expect certain things from the school. You expect Ohio State to put out, well, there was a time, you expected Ohio State to put out good elite linebackers. You expect the running backs to be really good. Wide receiver U, that's Ohio State. Well, how about we go back and saying DBU is Ohio State, and Denzel Burke can begin to continue to change the narrative, change it back to what it used to be. Denzel Burke, keep standing out. I got high hopes for you. I think could do big things in 2023. Let's see it in the spring game, and then let's start seeing it game after game after game when the Buckeyes take the field in the fall. Buckeyes will take the field in the fall, but in the NFL, there's a few of them that I can't wait to see in the National Football League. It's Mock Draft Monday, and the mock draft for today from the Draft Network has 4 Buckeyes going in the first round. You might know who they are, but you might not know where they're going. Let's tell you who's going where in this mock draft next right here on Locked on Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by Built Bar. The Built March Madness bracket is here. We know you have a favorite bar or puff, and now's your time to make it count. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com to vote for your favorites. You know I'll be voting for the Coconut Puff. And if you want your favorite college basketball team to win, then you'll be voting for that bar too. Support your team, support your bar or puff. And when you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you will be entered into a drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built. Not only that, but one Locked On fan will win a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. You got to try Built. Built, the best protein bar ever. Seriously, they're so amazing. You won't think they're good for you. What makes Built bars and puffs so good? Well, for starters, they are all high in protein, low in sugar, and covered in 100% real chocolate. Run to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day in March, so hop in and support your pick. Grab your bracket and go listen to the Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown with national analysis and the insights from our local experts. The Locked On College Basketball Breakdown has everything you need to make the most informed decisions on your bracket. Find the episode on Locked On College Basketball wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Mock Draft Monday is back. This is something that we're going to be doing consistently, and there's going to be times we go through multiple mock drafts. The last time we did this, we had 3 mock drafts in one day. But I decided today is the perfect time. First mock draft Monday, post-combine. How about we just go through one? And the mock draft we have selected for today is from the Draft Network, and there are 4 Buckeyes selected in the first round of this mock draft. You might be able to select, just by using your brain and your intelligence, who the 4 Buckeyes are in the first round of this mock draft. But where do they fall? Let's go through that together. The Carolina Panthers recently traded with the Chicago Bears, and in the trade, the Panthers acquired the number 1 overall pick in this NFL draft, and Ryan Fowler, the man behind the mock draft we are going over, he put Stroud going to the Panthers in this one. Now, you may say Bryce Young. You may say Will Levis. You may say Anthony Richardson will go to the Panthers. He says Stroud, and I can understand there's only 2 options. The Panthers need a QB. And Levis, Richardson, those guys are not the answers. It's clearly Stroud or Young, and honestly, Stroud goes number 1 in this mock draft. Young goes number 2. I can get that order. If you're going to go with one guy, the next is going to be the opposite. I still would go with Bryce Young over CJ Stroud. I think the intangibles that Young brings to the game, into the field, are something that the Panthers would love in their franchise. Here's his explanation for putting CJ Stroud in this spot. Quote, Carolina moved up for QB, and CJ Stroud looks to be the guy. He's a future under center. Now, get some athletes around him, end quote. I mean, that's kind of easy, right? Got the O-line you might want. Got some good pieces there on the opposite sides. Get some weapons. Because a quarterback can be good, but if he ain't got no weapons, he can only be so good. So Stroud, number 1, to the Carolina Panthers. Next up, and I was looking at this and I said, whoa. Who is it? Paris Johnson Jr. is the next Buckeye up. That's what I expected. To the Tennessee Titans. That might be at number 11 where he falls. This isn't the first mock draft where I have seen Titans and Johnson connected to each other, but we talked about one last week on Friday's show that had the same thing. Here's Ryan Fowler's explanation for why Paris Johnson Jr. to the Titans makes a lot of sense. Quote, a big man that moves like a linebacker. Paris Johnson Jr. would boost both the pass and run game no matter who is under center, even if Derrick Henry isn't in town, end quote. Now, here's the positive thing. If the Titans want to keep Derrick Henry, bringing in Paris Johnson Jr. allows you to do different things and allows you versatility from an offensive lineman and allows you to still keep some of the same trends you want to use on offense with Paris Johnson Jr. on the outside. Left tackle, I don't see Johnson Jr. being a guard in the NFL, not with that height at all. In college, maybe. They did. He can do it. I still think he is going to be a guy that's going to be a left tackle in the NFL for a long period of time. Now, next up, I was curious, where would Njigba fall? Would it be top 20, top 25? Where would Jackson Smith-Njigba fall? Now, when you find out where he fell, okay, it's going to make some sense. Might shock you. It will not shock you the team that Ryan Fowler said, and Njigba's going to him, because we all realize Bill Belichick likes good slot receivers, and that's what Jackson Smith-Njigba is. Number 14 overall, Ryan Fowler has Jackson Smith-Njigba going to the New England Patriots. Here's what he had to say about Njigba. Quote, WR1. The Patriots are extremely static currently with the same type of skill set out wide. And adding a pass catcher like Jackson Smith-Njigba would open up every level of an aerial attack. The most nuanced route runner in the class. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins Offensive Rookie of the Year, end quote. Now, first overall wide receiver on the board, great. I can get on the board with that. I hope if this actually happens and Njigba is not outside, put that man in the slot, let him cook, let him do what he does very, very well, and you will see that Patriots offense look a whole lot better than it has recently, especially post Tom Brady. Next up, this one surprised me, and it might surprise you too. No, it ain't Zach Harrison, and it ain't Luke Whippler. They are not first-round picks. I would be shocked if I wouldn't be shocked at all if Whippler was a day 2 pick and Harrison was a day 3 pick. I think that's probably going to happen. Latter part of round 3, Luke Whippler. Round 4, maybe round 5 for Zach Harrison. That may ruffle some feathers. But hey, that's just how I currently see it right now. DeJuan Jones, number 16 overall in the draft, making himself some money if this happens to the Washington Commanders. A little bit of a longer, lengthier explanation for this pick. Here's what Ryan Fowler had to say about this mock draft position for DeJuan Jones. Quote, a man the size of your local state park. The Commanders will have a new face under center again this fall, and keeping him upright remains paramount. DeJuan Jones has a ton of experience in pass pro in his time with the high-flying Buckeyes offense, and Washington is expected to sling it around in 2023. He has a top 30 visit scheduled with Washington in the coming weeks, end quote. That's a huge reach for DeJuan Jones. If you want him that bad, great. I don't think he is a first-round pick. Now, if the issues with his weight were not happening while he's at Ohio State, being a starter, being a competitor, I would say 25 through 31 maybe. I don't think him coming in and the Buckeyes saying he lost 30 pounds. He's down to 360, but he's been 360 the entire time. He was at Ohio State on the roster. And then all of a sudden, it's 375 at the Senior Bowl, 374 at the Combine. I'm curious what he weighs in at the Pro Day. His weight's going to be a big question. And honestly, if he cuts down 25 pounds, it seems like a lot. But when you throw it, it is a lot of weight. But if he cuts down 3 to 350, you're getting a better football player. I would not take that in the first round, but the Commanders desperately need help on the field and off. And so if that's where they go, do it. But to me, that's risky. What are your thoughts about this mock draft on Mock Draft Monday? Leave them in the YouTube comment section of this show. I'm curious to hear what you have to say. I have a lot to say about the Buckeye basketball season. It didn't go well. Had started off well, had a bad stretch over 15 games, ended stronger than I expected. But the Buckeyes are not playing any postseason basketball in 2023. We're going to talk about what went down over the weekend and why they're not playing in the postseason next right here on Locked on Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drain. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Buckeye basketball. It wasn't always fun. It wasn't always pretty. It wasn't always the way you wanted it to be in 2022 and 2023. This season, Start off 10-3, lose 14 of 15 games. I think the Buckeyes won 5 of the last 7 games. Cool. Great way to end the season. But, buddy, that stretch over those 15 games, that is why the Buckeyes are where they are right now at the end of the season. Now, I understand the Buckeyes ended up making it to the Final Four of the Big Ten Conference Tournament, ultimately lost to Purdue on Saturday afternoon. Purdue also ended up winning the conference tournament as well, their number 1 overall seed in the NC2A tournament. The Buckeyes have a losing record this season. Wasn't always good. Chris Holtmann is to blame for a lot of what happened this year. So are the players. We're going to talk more about who's to blame for what happened this year on tomorrow's show. But, man, it's weird. And I was on Sunday evening, just to give you a little more insight into how I was preparing and when I was recording this show. So Selection Sunday, NC2A tournament, 6 p.m. Eastern on CBS. The Buckeye season being over, we all knew that. It was not the best season for them. Chris Holtmann, more questions about him. I wondered how many freshmen stay and how many players enter the portal. I wonder all those things. The roster construction needs to change. There's a lot that needs to change to this basketball team to be better next season. But on Sunday evening, I am sitting down on my couch watching the selection show, and I know Ohio State's not going to be in the NCAA tournament. I still wanted to see the selection show and where everybody's going and start brainstorming where I'm going to pick the players, pick the teams in the brackets to see who I think is going to win the national championship. I've already had 2, maybe 3 teams in my head over the weekend about who might win the national championship. Purdue's one of them if I had to think about 5, but I don't know if I can really ride with the Boilermakers right now in this tournament. And so I looked up, I even looked it up on Sunday. When is the NIT selection show? Buddy, I Googled, went to the NIT Twitter page, first search, didn't see it. So I went to the Google. 10 p.m. That's correct. I have never watched the NIT selection show on purpose. I never cared for the NIT selection show. I didn't think for this show we would have to worry about the NIT selection show when I took it over. But here we are, 2023. Jay Stevens is watching the NIT selection show, so he can come on and tell you, instantly react to what just came out. The Buckeyes don't make the field of 32 for the NIT selection show. And then the College Basketball Invitational, which was played down in Orlando, they didn't make that field either. 3 tournaments, Buckeyes didn't make any of them. Chris Holtmann said he wasn't sure if the team would accept an invitation to a postseason tournament due to the injuries. It's another thing we're going to talk about on tomorrow's show, just the mindset of the coach and what's going on. But no, postseason, it just doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel right at all. Now, North Carolina did not accept the bid to the NIT. Okay, cool. The Buckeyes aren't Carolina. They're not on that caliber of team, on that level. Accept it. Play the basketball. Let the guys play. But no, Chris Holtmann said probably not. And I truly, honestly wonder if they were going to get an invite, if they got an invite, because I hadn't seen anything at the time of this recording that had been reported that the Buckeyes had gotten an invite to a postseason tournament and turned it down. I don't know. We got word earlier in the year, at the end of last year, 2022, that the Buckeyes were selected to play in the Rose Bowl, that they would not play in the Rose Bowl. They would opt out of playing in that game, which to me, that was dumb. That would have been a stupid decision to not play in the Rose Bowl. Whatever it is, they would have said no. So, cool. But to deny an invite, think about if you're a player on this team. Oh, we missed the NCAA tournament, but we can go to the NIT? It would have been great for this team, great for the young players, great for a guy like Bruce Thornton, who was on the all-tournament team in the Big Ten Conference Tournament, because that man is a dog, and Bruce Thornton is a player that when he's a player next year, the Buckeyes get this thing fixed, they can go on a deep tournament run because you need a good lead guard to get that thing done, and he fits the conversation. He fits the description of a player that can put the team on his back and go deep in the tournament. This season wasn't good. I don't care about the end of the season. I don't care about any of that. Losing 14 and 15, the Buckeyes knew what was going to happen. They knew the only way they were going to play in the NCAA tournament was if they ended up playing winning the conference tournament, which is tough. I mean, they played 4 games in 4 days, never had 24 hours rest in between games. It didn't happen. They were gassed. They were tired in the game against Purdue. It was a hard-fought game, hard-fought week of basketball games. Buckeyes got a lot of work to do, man. Chris Holtmann, Bryce Sensabaugh get healthy. Oh, he was ruled out for the rest of the season due to a knee injury he suffered against Iowa. Zed Key get healthy. Everybody else rest up. Team has some work to do in the offseason. So does Chris Holtmann. We'll talk about him late on tomorrow's show. We'll talk about the rest of the players the rest of the week. This team can be good next year, but a lot has to change with the coaching if the Buckeyes want to reach their goals during the next college basketball season. Out of here on a Monday. We'll be back tomorrow. Got a list from Daniel Jeremiah that we're going to go over tomorrow. Also, going to just try to filter in some good stuff. Going to start to do some like bucket list stuff and some great off-season conversations as well. Going to try to get some guys from the Locked On NFL family to come on and talk about Stroud. Is he a good fit for the Panthers? Is he a good fit for the Texans or the Colts or whoever it might be, the Raiders? Where is Stroud going to go? What about Paris Johnson Jr. or Zach Harrison or Luke Whippler? We're going to get a lot of stuff leading up to the draft, leading up to the spring game. You don't want to miss it. You want to subscribe. You want to stay locked in to Locked On Buckeyes every day so you don't miss a thing. Guys, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. Be back tomorrow talking about spring practice, talking about Buckeyes and the draft. There's a lot going on. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So when the new episode comes up, it's automatically downloaded so you can play that thing on your morning compute. Guys, out of here on a Monday. Have a good day.